Hey guys, so I'm going to run you through opening a Vanguard Stocks and Shares ISA account, and I'm going to run it through from the perspective of a beginner. I'm going to highlight some of the things that maybe the more seasoned investors might not notice that some of us beginners, struggle with. I invest in other things, but stocks and shares I actually only started this year, so I'm on my learning journey and kind of taking you along with me so you can feel my pain and laugh at me as I go along. Okay, so you want to make sure that you are on the .co.uk website, Vanguard is a brokerage, and I like to think of brokers as the Argos guys. So, you go into Argos and you kind of look at the catalogue and you see what you like and you fill out the numbers at the nice little pencil they give you, and then you go to the counter, you give the guy, and he takes what you've asked for, he goes to the back and does whatever he does, and he comes back with your stuff, right? So I see brokers as that. For some reason with stocks and shares, we can't like going into a grocery shop, pick what we want off the shelf and buy it and leave. We need that middleman, the Argos guy who goes to the back and gets it for us, and they charge for that service. And in the past it used to be quite expensive, and it still is depending on who your brokerage is and what kind of investing account you go for, but Vanguard is quite popular for being low cost, so you actually get to see a little bit more gain from the gains that you make from your investments. So this man here, John Bogle, is quite popular for that. Okay, so go into the website and yep, 2020, we see this image of this lady, lovely lady looking smiling with the V for victory. So you want to just scroll down to where it says stocks and shares ISA and hit open an account. Lots of smiling faces. Okay, so do we want to open an ISA? Yes. So just make sure that you've got your NI number, but also that you can afford at least a £500 lump sum payment, and then a minimum payment of £100 a month after that, because that's the minimum requirement to be able to invest with Vanguard. There's other brokerages that allow you to invest a lot less at the beginning, and there's some free ones as well, like Trading 212, which allow you to open a stocks and shares ISA, but not having to commit that much at the beginning. Okay, so you click open, and then you go to the next page, and then it's the T's and C's. I know. Nobody likes the T's and C's. I mean, I feel like all of us could just be signing away our lives sometimes the way we don't read them. And I know, I'm not going to lie, for this one, because like I say, I'm a beginner, I actually did. I read the key features, and what was quite handy in this one actually is the questions and answers. So if you scroll down to page 7, you actually get the question and answers, and it's like, how much can you invest? What's the minimum? How is everything's priced, and how do you transfer money into the ISA? And then also, how do you take money out of your account? So it explains all of that, and I actually think that was quite useful, so it's worth reading that. And then also the declaration. This is really 4 points, so that should be quite quick to read, and you just know what you're actually signing up to make sure you're not lying and liable for something that you said yes to that actually isn't true. So, you're over 18 and, a bunch of these other things. You are actually tax resident in the UK. So if you're paying tax elsewhere and this isn't where you're tax resident, you don't benefit from an ISA, because remember, an ISA, you don't actually pay tax on the gains that you get in an ISA, which is why it's quite a nice, efficient way. So in combination with having a low cost broker like Vanguard plus the tax-free environment, it's quite a nice kind of double benefit. Okay, and then they got, their other client terms and conditions. As a beginner, these are quite useful because it just defines some of the definition terms. And then the privacy policy, I'm not going to lie, I didn't read it. I just hope that they're not selling my data. So after you're happy and you're satisfied, you want to make sure that you have actually read through it, and you are ticking to say that you have read all of these documents. This essentially is a contract. You're binding yourself to say that you've read and you agree. So you want to make sure that you're happy with that and that you're confident that you've done that. Okay, so now what you want to do is you get to this page. Now this is the first page where I was like deer in the headlights, like, oh, I've made it so far and I was doing so well. Now look oh, I don't know what I'm doing now. So, very quickly, Vanguard, you can't buy individual shares. You can't buy Coke or, Asda or Sainsbury's or whatever. You can only buy groups of shares, and the shares are grouped together based on different things like the country location or, how big the company is. And then also they've got bonds. So blended funds are a mixture of your shares and your bonds. So your equities are your shares. So, as far as I understand it, the word equity can be used interchangeably with the word share, right? And shares are seen as a little bit more risky because they're shares in companies and companies can go bust, right? But fixed income funds can be used interchangeably with the word bonds, and these are loans to governments or large corporate places that allow you to have a slightly safer environment because, the UK government is less likely to go bust than maybe Marks and Spencer's. So what you want to do is then kind of combine the two based on your risk appetite. Now, blended funds are Vanguard's own kind of basket where they've mixed together, the amount of equity versus the amount of bonds. Remember, bonds are slightly safer, equity slightly more risky. So 100% is 100% equity. So that's if you're someone who thinks you're going to be in it for the long haul and you can afford to lose all your money and have it come back up over the years. And then the life strategy 20 is if, you're getting closer to retirement and you can't afford to take the risk of potentially losing quite a lot of money, and you don't have the time to let it build back up. Now, it's very likely in an index fund that you will lose all of your money because depending on what's actually in the fund, all of those companies would have had to have gone bust for it to go to zero. So I actually started with a equity fund because the only reason why I started investing was I wanted shares in certain companies that I was always spending money on or always using. So I use a lot of Microsoft. I got PCs, we use PC at work, we use PC at home. I spend so much money on Amazon Prime. I wanted shares in Amazon and all of that jazz. But we all know just putting money into one company is a lot riskier than, putting money into a bunch of companies, which is why we're here at Vanguard, which is index funds, because it's companies grouped together based on different things. So I know that all of these companies are based in America. So I scrolled past Europe and global. I scrolled past the UK. And I scrolled past Japan and Asia, and I found the USA, right? And now I'm like, okay, I see these. So what I did is the S&P 500 sounded familiar. I'm like, oh, I've heard of that. So I Googled the S&P 500 index, and I looked at the companies that are in there, and I was satisfied that that's where I wanted to put my money. And that is how I chose what I was going to invest in first. So I went full in, and I put in £500 into the S&P 500, and I decided to put in £100 a month towards the S&P 500 as well. I didn't balance it at all. I didn't go for any bonds or anything. So that was just my starting place. Now you can always change, and you don't need to know everything at the beginning. You just need to find a place that you're comfortable with, a place that you understand to start, right? So that's what I did. And you can see at the bottom here, you got your £500 and your £100 minimum payment, and that will come out as a direct debit every month. And then the remaining amount is what's left in your ISA allowance. Remember to just keep in mind that if you've got a cash ISA, you want to make sure that, you're not contributing more than your annual allowance. Okay, then you just need to fill in your personal details and add in your NI number and all of that. And yeah, all of that. And then you go next and you can complete your order. And Vanguard will take your £500 and invest it in where you said you want it to be invested. And they will, from then on this particular one, because I said a regular monthly payment of £100, they will take out that £100 as a direct debit every month. Now, since then, I have invested in other funds actually, and diversified my portfolio just a little bit. I think you always have to take a view based on what you're comfortable with. And so that's what I did. So I hope you found that useful. I'm Mumbai from the Inspired Baobab. I share about saving, my journey in investing, you know, learning along the way. You could see my pain and my falls and where I go wrong and right. And I just share on books as well that inspire me along the way. So I'll be sharing a bit more of that. I haven't done that yet, but I will do a little bit more of that in the future. So if you're interested in any of that, you know, please feel free to click subscribe, and I shall see you on my next video. Bye bye.